What's going on, guys? Danny here from Metal Couch, and the season is finally upon us. We're getting a whole bunch of metal releases within the next month or two, and we're kicking it right off with Ghost's new album, Meliora. I have been very critical of Ghost in the past, but every time that they've released new material, I have kept an open mind when I go in to listen to it. This one not being any exception to that rule. Now, I had done a track review for one of their previous tracks a few months ago when it was unveiled, and I thought that it was a okay track. Pretty solid. Couldn't wait to hear what the album sounded like. And getting right into it, just going to go down the track listing and list them off first. We have Spirit, From the Pinnacle to the Pit, Sir Ice. Still going to stick by that pronunciation because it's silly and wrong. Spuxonot, He Is, Mummy Dust, Majesty, Devil Church, Absolution, and Deus in Absentia. Spirit, right off the bat, sounds like it should have been a single from this album. Actually surprised that it wasn't. It honestly feels like the kind of track that would have been unveiled first as like, here's what we're doing for the new album. Nonetheless, solid track. From the Pinnacle to the Pit is where things start to get a little bit interesting. Now, as I said before, I have been very critical of Ghost, and for those of you who have been following my channel, you know why. And From the Pinnacle to the Pit is probably one of the closest that we're going to get to a straight-up metal track on this album. It's a decent song. I like it, and the artwork that goes along with it is exceptional. I think it's a good song. Then we get song Sir of Rice that I dealt with a few months ago, which I thought was, it was alright. It was okay. And then Spuxonot, which is nothing. Nice little interlude. Nice little interlude, that's about it. Instrumental. It's a transition track. Nothing really much to say about it other than it's a slow-moving interlude. Nothing really of note here. He is where it gets really interesting. Never before have I thought that a band that has the appearance of Ghost, nor the sound of Ghost, would make a gospel song. It completely threw me off guard. It was a huge surprise that this just randomly happened. I didn't expect it. But He Is a straight-up gospel song that you would hear from any Christian group from Alabama to freaking, I don't know, Tennessee. I was just... It was interesting, to say the least. And if you want to hear something truly unique from this band, I highly recommend listening to this track. Then we have Mummy Dust, which, like From the Pinnacle to the Pit, is probably the closest that we get to a heavy metal track, and it's actually really good. It's a really good track. Enjoyed it. Majesty, in my opinion, is probably one of the weakest tracks off of this album. I didn't really find it to be anything really notable. It didn't do much. It's just, okay. Alright. I don't like Majesty. I really don't. It's missing something, and I don't quite know what that is yet. I'm sure some people will probably feel the same way when they listen to Majesty. And then we have Devil Church, which is just another short little interlude with a lot of organ. There's a lot of church organ on this album, and I'm going to talk about that when we're done going through all the tracks. Absolution, which again is just another filler track leading up to Deus in Absentia, which is the big album closer, and probably one of the highlights off of this album. Production-wise, it's the same that you would expect from a Ghost album. Better than their first album's offering, and I would say it's pretty much on par with Infestessumum. Ghost is a band that I've had a troubled history with because I really liked Opus Eponymous and I thought it did something great. And then Infestessumum happened and they fell out of grace with me. And I'm conflicted on Meliora because there are a few tracks on here that I like, such as From the Pinnacle to the Pit, Mummy Dust. But the more that I listen to this album, and I listen to some of the tracks that I do like and that I don't like, the more it bothers me that this is what is considered to be metal now. Because in my opinion, this is definitely one of the best rock albums of the year. Metal, not so much. I wouldn't even consider this to be a metal album, even though that's what I primarily review. I don't have a problem with dealing with rock albums such as this. I feel that there is an overabundance of keyboard on this album, even more than Infestessimum in my opinion, and that to me is troublesome. I feel that an overabundance of keyboard is a really bad thing, and it adds to the cheese factor, and some people could argue, well, that's part of the appeal. Sure, it's okay when you're trying to take things as a joke and not really as seriously. But then again, since when has this kind of music been serious in the first place? Meliora is probably going to be the best rock album of the year. And if I were to grade it in that vein, I would give it a 7 out of 10. As a metal album, it completely falls short. It doesn't even embody the spirit, nor does it even have some of its most basic elements. And, as I've said in previous reviews, no matter how much I enjoy From Ghost, the second that I say that it is a rock album instead of a metal album, which is true, their fan base, rabid as they be, decide to attack anybody who says any differently. I enjoyed the album. I really like it. Is it going to win Metal Album of the Year? Hell no. Not even close. But it might actually warrant a purchase for me, just so that way I can have something to give to people that have people come over and listen to that aren't really heavy into metal. I recommend this album if you're a fan of rock music. I think it's a decent album. And still, looking forward to the future, I would like to see what they have to offer. Because if they can do things like He Is on future albums and just do a complete 180 and surprise me with something like gospel music, or maybe on the next album they just decide to do a dubstep track, who knows? May just surprise you. For those of you who were curious, yes, the ABBA feel is still here, and you could definitely hear it on Deus in Absentia. So there is an ABBA-like quality to Ghost on this album. 7 out of 10 for me. Danny here from Metal Couch. Bring on the comments. All hail Zarathustra. I'm out.